Hi, Susan Clare here, GourmetQuilter. Just popping in to give you a little bit of some basic information. Many of us will know this information, but I thought we'd start at the beginning. We're going to be doing some projects this year that involve using up some of our leftovers or scraps, and I thought we'd start with some basics that we could then use to make other things with. So this time, what is a four patch? Well, a four patch is some patchwork with four patches. Very, very self-explanatory. There's a little tutorial available on my website. It comes with a page as a download where you could stick your sample if you're wanting to keep your own reference. I have here an example of some four patches in different sizes. So these four patches can be any size you like. They might be just little like this. They might just be two colors. They might be four different colors. They can be large or small, as I said, anything you like, but only four pieces and all the same size. So any size you like. So you could have 4 2.5-inch squares and put them together into a larger square. You could have 4 3.5-inch squares or 4 5.5-inch squares, or so it goes on. Obviously it's going to be the size according to what you've used. I'm basing a lot of this around this book that I've written called A Quilter's Scrap Pantry, which is all based on my leftovers pantry, and I have broken it down into making units, as I've called them. So we're starting with the unit 1, which is the four patch, which can then later on be used in other ways in a quilt, or can be used on its own. So in this quilt behind me, for example, the corners on these star blocks are four patches. So we've got 2 reddish colour ones and 2 white ones in each corner there. And this block over here, if you can see it, has got a four patch of all sort of reddish colours in the centre there. And so you can see that to me that's a unit that you can then use in combination with other things. So I thought we'd just start with what is a four patch, and I'll show you a four patch. I have got a few random squares here. I've been going through and sorting out some of my leftovers in my pantry, and I found 4 nice coloured squares. They're 3.5 inches square each, and I thought I could just make those up into some sort of a random four patch. So you might be colour coordinating, you might be doing all sorts of things, but I'm just using some leftovers from my pantry to make my four patch, and then I can pop it in my folder as a little ready reference for other times. So I'm going to sew. So we're just using a 1/4 inch seam allowance, and I'm going to sew that seam, and while I'm here I'll sew the next seam. So you can just chain piece, you can pop these through one after the other. I have a 1/4 inch foot on my machine. And now I'm just going to snip those apart, and I'm going to just press those. Now I'm going to press the seams one way. You can press them open if you prefer to. If you press them one way, quite often that means that when you put the two together, they're going to nestle together. So you want to make sure you're pressing them in opposite directions, I guess, so that when you turn it around, this seam is going that way and this seam is going that way, so that when I join them together there, that seam will just nestle together nicely. Now if you've pressed the seam open, it won't nestle, and you'll have to match up the seam a little bit more carefully. But this way you can feel it, and it will just sit nicely when you sew it. So I'll check it along the way. I have so many leftovers. So there we've got a very nice seam meeting in the middle. I'm going to press that again. You could choose to press this one way, or you could open that seam on the back. I'm going to press mine one way. I'm quite happy with that idea. And there I have already got a four patch. So you can see it's not particularly onerous. It works really well if you're trying to make some larger blocks, smaller blocks. You can make combinations. You could just make four patches and have a whole little stack of four patches in your pantry ready for the next project. So thank you, that's a four patch.